I hate to start on a cliche, but we're all fortunate people living here in the US. I know that high school can be stressful, or applying to college can be stressful, or even having your name misspelled on your Starbucks coffee is pretty annoying. But truth is, for most of us in this room, problems and stress that we encounter are first world problems that are scoffed at in comparison to third world problems that a lot of people around the world face. When I was 7, my dad was transferred to India, and we ended up moving to Bangalore, a city in southern India, for 3 years. The standard of living for me in India wasn't much different from what I'd known in the US. I went to an international school and I made new friends. I did have to wear a uniform though. That part I never liked. What was different though was the chasm of difference between my private school and the rundown, yellowing government school across the street. What was different was the quality of medical care I had access to for just a cold or a stomach infection, and the infection-ridden, crowded government hospitals that often didn't have life-saving treatments that many people there needed. What was most different was that people seemed to resign to the idea of inequality. No one seemed to care. And that took me by surprise. I'd grown up on the American dream that anyone from any walk of life can make it. Anyone from any social class, any race, any income has a chance to follow their dream. It may not be equally difficult for anyone, but it's possible. And to my 8-year-old brain, it was hard to understand that that idea of social mobility just didn't exist in countries like India, especially when it came to education. Perhaps my experience living in India wasn't entirely authentic, because though I can stand here and I can cry and I can complain for what I saw people suffer with, I lived in a secured bubble, away from the difficulties a lot of people there encountered. I existed within the safety net of my American citizenship. 3 years later, I moved back to the US, to Connecticut, and I brought back with me my strong Indian accent, my love for Indian food, and memories of the struggles I saw there. I remember my apartment complex's security guard, who had to pull his son out of school because his family needed the additional income. Or the local vegetable vendor's daughter, who died because the government hospital couldn't diagnose her with tetanus. As I grew older, these memories stayed with me, and I really wanted to go back to India, to Bangalore, and leave the bubble I used to live in and make a direct difference in the lives of young children. So in the summer of 2015, I had the chance to work at a school in India. This school, Parikrama, was run by a nonprofit organization aiming to provide free, high-quality education to children living in local slums, to try to lift them out of systemic poverty. I worked in the remedial department, and I tried to help students who fell behind their peers in math, science, and English to catch up. I enjoyed coming to Parikrama every single day because all my students there had an immense gratitude for the opportunity that they got at Parikrama, and they were so affectionate towards and fascinated by the girl with the weird accent. I loved coming in every single day to Parikrama because most of my students came from families earning less than $75, and their only exposure to English was at school. So many of the teachers there asked me to come into their classes and talk a little bit about my life in the US as a sort of motivator to get kids to work on their English. That way, I was able to interact with students from all different grades and get to know them from the capacity of a friend rather than just as a teacher. One of the first kids I met there was Monica. She was a really smart second grader, and I think she was the first person there to remember my name. She had a voracious appetite for learning. She'd ask me to bring her any books I had at home so she could read more and learn new words. During lunch, she tried to have extended conversations with me in English to practice speaking. As a second grader, I think she was acutely aware of her family's financial status and was driven to take full advantage of parikrama to lift her family out of the cycle of poverty. One day, when I asked her what she wanted to do when she grew up, this is what she told me.
Can I start, Akka? My name is Monica. I want to become a scientist.
I truly hope to see her become a scientist one day because I know she can do it. Another one of my favorite kids there was Kieran. Kieran was a first grader and he really struggled with English. As his tutor, it was really difficult to get through to him because neither of us understood each other. I only knew enough of his language to tell him that I can't speak it, and he struggled with the English alphabet. I remember one of the days we were working on writing the alphabet and sounding it out, and I remember him looking more and more confused. Eventually, I pulled out my phone and I tried to play one of those alphabet videos that get you to sing along to it. And to my surprise, a couple ABCs in, he started singing along with the video. And eventually, he was able to spell out the whole alphabet all by himself. Eventually, we were zooming through larger words.
P-O-T. Pot. M-O-H-H-E-R. Mother. F-A-H-H-E-R. Mother. Father. P-R-O-T-H-E-R.
I know it's not a big deal for someone to be able to say father or mother or brother, but for someone like Kieran, with no background in English, no one at home to reinforce what was taught in school, I was incredibly proud of the progress that he made in 4 short weeks. And it wasn't just in content. He looked happier and more confident in himself that he was on par with the rest of his class. So let's take a moment here to look at this diagram. It was published by the United Nations Food and Agricultural Committee on the cycle of poverty in India. At the top, we have poverty leading to poor food intake, malnutrition, and stunted development. And on the other side, we have low earning capacity and impaired productivity leading to poverty. Now, most government programs in countries like India tend to focus on the result of poverty, like poor food intake and malnutrition. But what parikrama did that's entirely different is that it broke the cycle at low earning capacity, at impaired productivity, and it attacked the very root of poverty. Perhaps this is why so many students at parikrama are the first in their family to graduate from college, or the first in their family to hold a non-low skill job. I have experience in 2 radically different education systems. Here in the US, public schools are well funded and they encourage academic and intellectual diversity. In India and in other developing countries in Asia, Africa, South America, educational opportunities are unequal. When these opportunities are sectioned off based on income, how do we bring kids stifled by cyclic poverty the chance to dream? Kids all over the world have aspirations and dreams. Are we doing enough to empower them? And it's not just in India or developing countries. To a certain degree, the same problem exists in the US. In states like Louisiana, with poor educational infrastructure, in cities like Hartford, schools like the Burns Academy, the same problem exists, perhaps on a smaller scale. Parikrama models for us an education system where kids, no matter their income, no matter their socioeconomic status, no matter their race, have the chance to dream and have the chance to be whoever they want to be. Some of my most valuable life lessons were taught to me by 2nd graders in broken English, and I'm forever indebted to them for that. Thank you.